Daniel Bryan has had a legendary career with WWE that has seen him show his incredible versatility, working as a face and a heel, a solo star and in a tag team, as well as a raging vegan. This legendary career and versatility is no better showcased than on the grandest stage of them all, with Bryan having some truly epic highs and some abysmal lows on the grandest stage. Daniel Bryan has wrestled at 8 WrestleManias, 9 if you count a dark match with Sheamus at WrestleMania 27, and we certainly don't. We have ranked all 8 of the leader of the Yes Movement's outings at WrestleMania, taking both match quality and the moment into account. Number 8. WrestleMania 28 vs Sheamus. Daniel Bryan went into WrestleMania 28 as the World Heavyweight Champion, but just 18 shocking seconds later, his belt was gone. The opening match to WrestleMania 28 will live forever in infamy after Sheamus' bro kick saw the fan favourite defeated in just 18 seconds. The two men would go on to have a rematch at Extreme Rules 2012 just 1 month later in a 2 out of 3 falls match that was certainly WrestleMania worthy, making this even more head scratching. Despite this match being infamous for the terrible booking, it would go on to fuel the Yes Movement, getting the fans fully behind Daniel Bryan and pushing him towards the main event position that he fully deserved. Number 7. WrestleMania 36 vs Sami Zayn. The Intercontinental Championship is often regarded as the workhorse title, with the likes of Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect all delivering all-time classics with the belt. Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship sounds like an absolute dream match on paper, but the booking would once again let this match down. Zayn went into the match as the Intercontinental Champion, having beaten Braun Strowman for the belt in a 3-on-1 handicap match, with the Artist Collective, Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura helping him to capture the title. Zayn would go on to cultivate somewhat of an opportunistic character that would see him do as little wrestling as possible and just avoid wrestling, winning often by countout. Bryan and Zayn should be a work rate dream, but Zayn spent most of the match scurrying away from Bryan, hiding behind Cesaro and Nakamura and trying to win by countout, before eventually hitting a flash haluva kick to win the match. If the two men were allowed to give us a 25-minute all-out match, this could well be one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, despite the fact that there was no crowd. Unfortunately, we just saw Zayn run away for 10 minutes. Number 6. WrestleMania 34 with Shane McMahon vs Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Bryan's return to in-ring action was one of the biggest draws of WrestleMania 34, having not wrestled in 3 years after his enforced retirement. But when the fans heard that Bryan was back, there can't have been many people who were clamouring to see him team with Shane McMahon against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The story picked up from Bryan's time as co-general manager of SmackDown, with Owens and Zayn making him and Shane McMahon's life hell. But Bryan was jumped before the match and would spend the majority of it lay on a stretcher, with most of the match seeing Owens and Zayn beat down Shane. Bryan would eventually come back and bring out the classics that the fans had missed out on. The running knee, the yes kicks, the diving headbutts and the yes lock. But this didn't feel like the spectacle that it deserved to be. We didn't want to see Shane McMahon, we wanted to see Daniel Bryan again. Number 5. Team Hell No vs Big E and Dolph Ziggler. In what is most likely Daniel Bryan's least memorable WrestleMania outing, he and Kane as Team Hell No defended the WWE Tag Team Championships against Big E and Dolph Ziggler. The story of the match centered around AJ Lee, who had defected from Daniel Bryan to Dolph Ziggler, with Ziggler kissing Lee before the match in reference to Bryan's World Heavyweight Championship loss the year prior, with Bryan kissing AJ Lee before eating the bro kick from Sheamus. Team Hell No would eventually pick up the win after B missed Kane with the Money in the Bank briefcase before hitting him with a chokeslam and a diving headbutt to retain. This match had a feeling that everyone in it could be doing a lot better. Ziggler had the Money in the Bank briefcase and would cash in on Alberto Del Rio the next night, and Bryan would go on to have the best year of his career. Number 4. WrestleMania 31 Intercontinental Championship ladder match versus Bad News Barrett, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, Luke Harper, R-Truth and Stardust. What better way to start WrestleMania than to give a workhorse the Intercontinental Championship in an excellent multi-man ladder match. Daniel Bryan crowned himself as a Grand Slam champion in WWE with this win and just showed how far he had come. The 7-man match was a great spot fest and was a fantastic way to get the crowd into the card, getting them excited right off the bat. Bryan eventually would win, headbutting Ziggler off the ladder and hooking the title. This was unfortunately Bryan's last big match before having to relinquish the title and retire for the first time. For any other wrestler, this could be their number one WrestleMania match. It's a fantastic match, great spots, and it's remembered as an all-time classic. But Daniel Bryan isn't just any other wrestler. Number 3, WrestleMania 30 versus Triple H. If you want a great opening match to WrestleMania, you call on Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan opened WrestleMania once again, this time taking on Triple H to earn a spot in the main event against Randy Orton and Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship. Bryan came into the match with an injured arm, which Triple H would continually work over, damaging even further ahead of the main event. After Triple H's now legendary Golden Skull entrance, Bryan would kick out of a pedigree before hitting the running knee to earn himself a spot in the world title match. After the match, Triple H would damage his arm further on the ring post to set up the main event. This match will be remembered as one of the greatest opening matches in WrestleMania history, with the conclusion of a feud between Bryan and Triple H and some incredible chemistry between two men who hadn't really wrestled before. Number 2, WrestleMania 35 versus Kofi Kingston. In many of these matches, Daniel Bryan is the focal point, but this time around, it was all about Kofi Kingston. 5 years on from the miracle on Bourbon Street, Bryan became the very thing he hated, the older statesman, the foreboding champion, keeping an up-and-coming fan favourite down in the shape of Kofi Kingston. Just as Bryan had 5 years earlier, Kingston overcame all of the odds and all of the barriers put up against him to become the WWE champion. The incredible storytelling and the clear journey that Daniel Bryan took showcases just how good of a storyteller he is, somehow turning the fans against him and getting everyone behind Kingston. The stadium erupted as Kingston hit Bryan with Trouble in Paradise, an incredibly culturally important moment as Kingston became the first African American WWE champion. And although this story is all about Kofi, Bryan's excellent heel work and storytelling cannot be forgotten, getting the fans even more behind Kofi than anyone could have imagined. And number 1, WrestleMania 30 versus Randy Orton and Batista. What else could it have been? WrestleMania 30 is where Daniel Bryan took his place at the top of WWE. It was the main event of WrestleMania 30 that saw Daniel Bryan reach the pinnacle of his career, overcoming all the odds to be top of the mountain. After Batista won the Royal Rumble and the fans turned on him, WWE's plans were turned on their head, with Bryan forcing his way into the main event. The match has been often compared to WrestleMania 20's main event, with Chris Benoit overcoming Triple H and Shawn Michaels, but the passion from the fans towards Bryan made this match feel like a once-in-a-lifetime moment. The match had a number of incredibly close near falls, with Batista so close to winning the match after throwing Bryan out after a running knee, but it would be Bryan who would claim the titles, locking Batista in the yes lock to claim the gold. The image of Bryan lifting both belts will live in WWE mythology forever and is one of the most legendary moments in professional wrestling. So that's our list. Let us know what your favourite Daniel Bryan WrestleMania moment is, and let us know what you think he'll do at WrestleMania 37. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and check out theannouncerstable.com for all the latest wrestling news.